get to the root of the matter, to find out what catalyzed the fire, what brought about the fire. We need to know.
Also tonight, we tell you why the minority in Parliament is raising red flags over an agreement between government and Ijapa Royalties Limited, which they say will give the firm $1 billion revenue expected to accrue from the country's mineral resources.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Gassim Cement. The nation's building Vodafone the future is exciting ready. It is imagined tonight that the Electoral Commission's regional office, gutted by fire this dawn, had not had a fire audit since 2014, despite being a sensitive national installation. The Electoral Commission and the Fire Service have launched a joint probe into the outbreak. The fire, which started in the early hours of today, razed one of the warehouses storing used electoral materials. The Commission is, however, unable to disclose the extent of damage. Acting Head of Public Affairs, Mrs. Sylvia Naw, shows the outbreak won't affect preparations towards the December polls. We'll hear from her shortly, as the Commission says they're yet to establish if the outbreak could also be linked to arson, which of course you're not ruling out. I want to bring in my colleague Manuel Kranting, who has been to the scene of this fire and joins me on the telephone line right now. Manuel, what did you find at the scene of the fire?
So, Evans, this is a detached building from the main administration block of the Greater Accra Regional headquarters of the Electoral Commission. In fact, it is a storage facility, as I was told by the regional director, almost an archival, building where they kept old materials that they used. So he mentions the 2012 registration materials. But I was also able to get closer to the building myself, and I saw, some materials, some laminated voter ID cards. I also saw some ballot boxes therein. But the director has been telling me that these are sport materials from the ongoing registration exercise. But earlier we spoke to the acting public relations officer of the EC.
And he's been recounting a very interesting account of the fire safety protocols in that particular building, and an audit that's supposed to have happened, but apparently hasn't happened since 2014.
Exactly. You're right, Evans. He tells me that since 2014, when he started work at that particular office, there's not been any fire audit that has been conducted there. He even gives a more, a grimmer picture and says that the fire extinguishers which had been installed there, he cannot confirm whether or not they were even functional, except that the fire service says that it's going to conduct an audit and then later bring out the possible cause of the fire.
And we're hearing also from the EC's deputy spokesperson that they don't expect this to affect the polls coming up. I want to listen to Madame Sylvia Naw, who has been speaking to my colleague Parker Wilson.
Let me say that portions of the Greater Accra regional warehouse, was gutted by fire this morning, in the early hours of the morning, around 2 a.m.
If you say warehouse, is it different from the office itself?
It's different from the administration block. So let's say that the one of the warehouses is the commission, so this is not the only warehouse there. Yes, and then it was, unfortunately, it was gutted by fire this morning. Thankfully, the fire service was called in quickly, and they were able to quench the fire. Yes.
But what's the extent of damage?
Unfortunately, we had some forms in the old forms. We had some ballot boxes in there. We had some referendum stationery in there, and I think at this point in time it is premature to even know the extent of damage. But I can only say that these are the items that were in the warehouse, before fire gutted the warehouse. Old items, virtually, and some ballot boxes.
Yeah. I'm sure you've liaised with your officers at the Sapema office for the EC's own assessment. What happened? What led to the fire?
Right now, we can only speculate, but we are liaising with the Ghana National Fire Service, as well as the security agents, to get to the root of the matter, to find out what catalyzed the fire, what brought about the fire. We need to know.
But preliminary, what has been your investigation?
I'd rather we wait till the end of the investigation so that we can come out boldly and see what went wrong, what really happened. We need to get to the bottom of the matter to know how the fire started.
So, apart from the work of the Ghana National Fire Service, will the Commission independently investigate what led to the fire?
It can only be a collaboration between the Commission and the... in fact, we are an interested party because it happened right at our doorstep. So we are an interested party. But we need to get professionalism, and that is the reason we are collaborating with the Ghana National Fire Service and the security agency so that they can add on as far as professionalism is concerned to get to the bottom of the matter.
So you started investigating?
Of course, we have. Investigations have started.
Do you have any suspicion? I mean, some say you're going into an election year. You recently conducted some registration exercise. Is it your suspicion that perhaps this could be linked to the activities that you have planned for the year?
We can all speculate. But as to whether our speculation is right or wrong, that's another matter.
So what's the
and this is quite a sensitive issue. So I personally wouldn't want to speculate. I wouldn't want to veer into that arena at all.
But what's your suspicion?
I would want to, as a commission, we are waiting for the investigations to be complete, and then definitely we'll come out with a finding.
You've already picked up information that the fire outbreak has damaged the data center of the commission.
That is not true.
Not true?
The data center is intact. The fire gutted a warehouse at the regional office and not the data center. There are speculations that the data center is for, social media, some of these things you cannot. While there's fire, people start speculating. Some of these things do happen. But whether that is the truth or not is another matter altogether. And from the source, I'm telling you that the data center is intact.
It hasn't been affected at all?
Not at all. It's safe. So let me take this opportunity to assure Ghanaians that our data center is safe.
You have an activities for the year. Very soon you begin with nomination of presidential and parliamentary nominations and all of that. With this, the warehouse that has been gutted, because I know you have vital documents in there, is it going to affect your activities in any way?
I began by saying that these are old materials, old items. And let me reiterate that the outbreak will not in any way affect the conduct of the 2020 presidential and parliamentary elections. We are soldiering on as a commission.
The regional director of the EC has a detailed account because this is the building that came directly under his supervision. Kwame Amwa has been explaining in detail what happened. He confirms that, of course, there's not been any fire audit for the facility, and describes how that place appears to be pretty run down.
Actually, it was around 2:30 a.m. dawn when I had a call from the security men here that there has been a fire outbreak. So I quickly asked them to call the fire service, and they did so. So I got here, I think, 3:45 in the morning. By the time I got here, fire service has already been here trying to put out the fire. The intensity was high, but when I came, according to the description given to me, the fire had gone down a bit. So they managed to bring the fire out of control. So around 5 a.m., they've managed to put out the fire, but they stayed a long while here to ensure that it will not spark again. So around 7-8, they made sure the place was safe. In course of the fire break, ECG also came here to disconnect it so that the place would be more safer. So this is actually what happened in the other building, not exactly the main administration block.
So tell us what that other building is used for. You mentioned administration block and that other block. What is the difference between the two? Actually,
we keep obsolete items, and then too there were some old ballot boxes. These obsolete items, some of them were some of the old forms we've been using, and then the 2012 registration forms that we use. So these were the items that were in the building.
I mean, a few checks that we made said there was a second wave of the fire later in the day. Tell us about that one also.
Actually, it was around 2 when we saw a smoke was coming, and it was getting a bit higher. So we quickly called the fire service, and they came on again. Took control of it.
What's the extent of damage? I mean, you may not be able to tell us exactly, in terms of monetary terms, but I mean the extent of damage. What has the Electoral Commission lost by virtue of the fire?
Well, I don't think we have lost anything sensitive regarding our current operational activities. Things we lost were items that I said were quite obsolete, that are not being used currently. So in terms of our current operational activities, I don't think the items that we have lost will have any effect on them.
I heard that the EC regional director. Another story we are following for you tonight from Parliament. Minority raising red flags over an agreement between government and Ejapa Royalties Limited, which they say will give the firm $1 billion revenue expected to accrue from the country's mineral resources. My parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo has been following this very heated conversation on the floor of Parliament today and joins us on the telephone line right now. Now, Joseph, the Deputy Finance Minister, Abena Asari, laid the Minerals Royalty Investment Agreement before Parliament last night for approval. The firm used to be Asase Royalties Limited, but the name was changed recently to Ejapa. The minority says the company was incorporated in a tax haven city in the UK without oversight from Ghana, and so they believe something fishy may be happening here. Have they been providing any further evidence to back their suspicion?
Well, the conversation on this actually began about a month ago. What government has done is that in 2008, a law was passed in Parliament called the Mineral Income Investment Fund, to ensure that when it comes to the royalties that come from various mineral resources, it's invested so that the additional returns help develop the country. About a month ago, Parliament began the processes to amend that bill that was passed in 2018 to allow for what they describe as a special purpose vehicle to be established as more like an investment firm to be able to run the processes with the necessary investment. After that amendment was done, it's now that government is acting on that amendment to allow for this firm in question, Power Royalties Limited, to then take charge of some of the investments that the Mineral Investment Fund would have to do. And this is why the minority is raising objections. So they make the point that this is a firm that's actually being incorporated by people they don't know. They say that there's been the payment of money to some individuals already who are providing legal consultancy for this particular firm and this transaction with government that they think is out of place. And they think that the nation's resources to the tune of 1 billion Ghana cedis is something that may end up going into private pockets and all as far as the returns from the minerals are concerned, if this particular special purpose vehicle is actually allowed to take charge of the necessary investment. The document was laid. The debate on it is expected on the floor of Parliament any moment from now. The indication we got earlier when the House actually suspended sitting about a little over an hour ago was that, Parliament's going on a break later this evening, and so the MPs would return around this time to actually hear from the Speaker on his closing address, as well as the closing addresses of the majority and the minority leaders. But the indication is that the government, and for that matter, the majority leader, is going ahead to allow for the approval of this particular agreement, which the minority MPs, led by Kisela, supporting, say they will fiercely resist.
And I'm curious. I mean, this is about to be debated. I've also been observing that the Deputy Attorney General, Dominic Ayine, has some legal issues also as part of this.
He makes the point that when it comes to some of the firms that are actually coming in to help with investment, as far as the laws are concerned, even the Mineral Investment Fund, which is going into this agreement with them, would have absolutely no control when it comes to who directs affairs at some of these firms. He makes the point that the company which is being established is actually being set up outside the country in a place that it may be difficult to do the necessary monitoring because their laws actually don't give room for the necessary issues in terms of oversight and ensuring that the right taxes are paid. And he says that the whole agreement legally is on a footing that is not in line with Ghana's rules and Ghana's laws generally, and will not be in the interest of the country. Except that he's been getting responses from his colleagues on the majority side who insist that there is nothing that will be done that will not be in the interest of the nation. In fact, the agreement following its laying late last night, the Committee of Finance sat on it to give the necessary recommendation to the floor on it later today. Now, what happened was that when the committee started this morning, the minority MPs raised concerns that it's an agreement that they've not had the time to peruse, and so they want time. The committee sitting was adjourned for about 3 hours, and the committee came back. And from what we're gathering, there wasn't consensus at the level of the Finance Committee that they will recommend for approval of this particular document when it comes to the floor. And particularly, the minority MPs are raising issues, not just with the company which is coming in, which used to be called Asase Royalties Limited, and it's now Power Royalties Limited, but they say that African Legal Consult, which has actually gotten, they claim, an amount of 2 million cedis to provide consultancy, is actually run by someone that they say is linked to the MPP, and for them, it's again an indication that this is something that will not provide the necessary value for money. As far as Ghana
here is Dominic Ayine, Dr. Dominic Ayine, the former Deputy Attorney General, raising the legal issues with this.
There are also a number of legally problematic issues that we raised during the deliberations of the Finance Committee. And we think that they are so germane and critical to the people of this country that the media should we should let the media know, and then you can convey it to the ordinary citizens of this country, because we are the elected representatives of the people, and we are accountable to the people who have elected us. One of the key legal issues that we raised at the meeting, which was not answered satisfactorily to us, was the issue in relation to the Minerals Investment Fund Amendment Act. You remember that when we enacted the Minerals Investment Fund Act, subsequently the Minister of Finance came back and requested an amendment to the Act in order to allow for these same transactions that are the subject matter of today's meeting to be entered into by the government. And so the amendment came, it was duly passed by Parliament, and has been sent to the President for his assent. Now, under the Constitution, the President may decide not to assent to an act that has been sent to him, that has been passed by Parliament, but on the basis that he disagrees with what Parliament has passed. And the Constitution requires that the President should send the bill back to Parliament and then assign the reasons for his refusal to assent to the bill. Now, we do not have any evidence that the President has, as at now, assented to the Minerals Investment Fund Amendment Act that was passed by Parliament. And yet, the 4 transactional documents that were placed before the committee were for the approval of the committee in anticipation of the assent to be granted by the President. In other words, we are approving the agreements, that is the 4 agreements that were brought, and we have copies of the agreement for the benefit of the press if you want them. All right, they include the Minerals Fund investment, the royalties investment agreement, a relationship agreement, and then some 2 other transactional agreements that were placed before the committee. It means that the rights and obligations as well as the liabilities, all right, contained in those agreements are being approved today by the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana in anticipation of the coming into force of the Act.
So that is the former Deputy Attorney General, Dominic Ayine. As Joseph had indicated, this charge was led by the former Deputy Finance Minister, Minority Spokesperson on Finance case, Atufosin. He claims that government has already paid out 2 million cedis to a Ghanaian firm called African Legal Associates as legal consultants for the transaction, which he claims is out of place. Listen to him.
Another sad day for our democracy. I say this because, strangely, the government yesterday evening laid before Parliament a request for approval of a transaction agreement and a tax exemption for government of Ghana to monetize our mineral royalties in the form of a transaction and to securitize it for today's revenue. What I'm trying to say is that we all know that as a country we earn royalties from our mineral leases or mining leases. As a result, if you were to look at the budget statement every year, there is an amount of money that comes into the budget statement. In fact, for the year in question, the year 2020, if you were to look at the budget statement carefully, the government of Ghana is going to bring in a revenue of 1 billion Ghana cedis from mineral royalties. What this government has decided to do is that from now to the next, say, in perpetuity, so many years to come, they have decided to go and borrow against this royalty. So the future government will not get money from the mining mineral royalties, but rather they will get the money today and spend it. Strangely, they are trying to hide behind a structure that is quite new and alien to our system. And today, when we met at the Finance Committee to look at the details, we were shocked. We were shocked in the sense that government, in doing so, has decided to incorporate a company called Ejapa Mining Mineral Royalties Limited. You agree with me that not long ago there was some discussion that government has formed a company called Asafe Royalties Limited. After the issue came to the public, this government has now decided to change the name from Asafe to Ejapa. And we asked the question, and strangely, the minister confirmed that indeed the original name was Asafe Royalties. Now they've changed it to Ejapa without giving us any reason why. In fact, he said that because there are so many companies called Asafe, so they are running away from the word Asafe. Now it's called Ejapa. The company is is registered or incorporated in a place called Jersey. Jersey is a tax haven in the United Kingdom. We've asked for the incorporation document, but as we speak, we do not have the incorporation document. They are hiding from us the incorporation document for us to be able to be sure that this money, the shares belongs to government of Ghana or belongs to somebody else, and who are the directors. As of now, we do not know who are the directors of the company and who owns the shares of Ejapa. Again, we were told that they are going to use certain specific mining leases as a collateral to be able to raise the revenue. They have failed to give us the cash flows coming from this mining leases. And when we asked, they said they're going to give it to me and all of us. I've just received a WhatsApp message from the chairman. It is nothing but just we are one projection. But what we are asking for is the cash flows throughout the year of the transaction or throughout the period of transaction. Yet they are failing to give us those information. So we do not have the cash flows. Again, we've asked for the prospectus because they said they are going to the stock exchange to raise money on the back of this 1 billion Ghana cedis, $1 billion US. Yet they have failed to give us the cash flows and the prospectus. In fact, what we needed to know from the prospectus, we want to know the cost of the transaction. They have failed to give us, only for the minister to tell us that so far they have spent about $2 million US. This $2 million US, we want to know who they paid to. We are aware the Africa Legal Center is one of the lawyers that are part of this agreement. We want to know how much African Legal and Associates. And so we want to know how much money they are paid to this company.
Joseph is still with me on the line. Joseph, has the majority side said anything about these allegations?
Exactly so. So, Director of Communications of the NPP, who is also the NPP MP for Adenta Yaboabian Samoa, has been leading the majority side to respond to this, as well as Andre Japameta, who is the MP for Secondary. Essentially, they're insisting that the move is to ensure Ghana benefits as much as possible from the mineral resources and that the right investments are done for the benefit of those in those communities. And they've been assuring that there will be no effect on the part of anyone to shortchange Ghanaians as far as this deal is concerned.
I want to state clearly here, I want to state it to the hearing of the Ghanaian public that hitherto mineral royalties, the way they've been managed, the way they've been structured, have not served the people of Ghana well. You have a government which is far forward in thinking. You have a government which is far-reaching in conceiving of how public funds should be acquired and used. You have a government which is totally transparent, has passed the RTI, access to information, and you have a government which is prepared to do everything through Parliament, the people's representatives. This government of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's government, through Parliament, is telling the people of Ghana that our mineral royalties can raise in excess of $500 million of our own money, not borrowing, not loan, of our own money, ahead of when those monies would have trickled in. And it is good money, it is money that can be used for development, and it is money that all of us will know how it's to be used, where the revenues will come to Parliament. We talk about COVID funds. Every inch of the way, all COVID borrowings and investments have come to the floor of the House. Are we not all aware of them? So what is their business talking about COVID funds all the time? Are they jealous about how well the COVID process has been managed? It has been done transparently. It has been done for the benefit of the people of Ghana. It has been done so that the people are protected and that they are socially protected as well. It has been done so we can give you water. It has been done so we can give you free electricity. It has been done so that businesses can be supported. What more could the government have done? And so, ladies and gentlemen of the media, this Parliament is a house of record. This Parliament does things in the open. But this Parliament has rules. And that is why the majority leader has asked the NDC minority, if they choose to prefer that committee meetings be held in public from the beginning, so be it. Because coming in from a privileged meeting to come and share one-sided information undermines the spirit of the committee system in Parliament. Thank you very much.
Actually,
Joseph, is Parliament still in session considering this?
The House is actually still in session. Now, what happened is that about 2 hours ago, the Speaker, First Deputy Speaker Joe Sewusu, suspended sitting and indicated that when they come back, they will hear the various closing addresses from both the majority and the minority, and Professor Michael Kwe himself. And then about 10 minutes ago, George Evans himself, the first deputy speaker, resumed his seat, sitting in the chair, and wanting to begin proceedings once again. And that's when the minority MPs were then drawing attention to it that the move is to ensure that they get the Finance Committee's report back on the floor in order to allow for its approval. But after the first deputy speaker took his seat, the processes in the House stalled for a while. He did some consultation with the officials from the table office, and then he got up and left. So as we speak, the House is on suspension. We are waiting for them to return from their break, and what is still unclear for now is whether the report of the Finance Committee on this agreement will be laid for the necessary approval, or the leadership of the House will just give their closing addresses to the House again sitting until sometime October this year.
Thank you, Joseph. Let's bring in former Deputy Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayine, who has been raising legal issues with this particular agreement, an agreement between government of Ghana and the Ijapa Royalties Limited. We've had the Deputy Finance Minister, Ben Asari, laid the Minerals Royalty Investment Agreement before Parliament last night for approval, which came with some concerns that the minority are raising today. Dr. Dominic Ayine, I'm grateful that you could join me. We just heard from the majority side, and they insist that this is an agreement that, in essence, would give Ghana and bring in more than $1 billion in revenue. If, of course, that is the argument, what is the minority's fundamental concerns? I've heard a lot of allegations and suspicions that monies have been paid, and there's a company that has changed its name from Asase Royalties to Ijapa Royalties. Does that really matter in the grand scheme of things? When there's $1 billion at stake?
Well, thank you very much, Evans. The problem is that we need to go back to the basics. The constitution of this country is very, very clear that the powers of government, rest with the people of government. The sovereign will of the people is the fountain from which governmental powers are drawn. And secondly, the powers of government must be exercised in the name of and for the welfare of the people of the country. And so any agreement that comes to Parliament must meet the requirements of this grand welfare principle, that whatever we are doing is is for the welfare of the people of this country. It must enhance public welfare. Now, having said that, all right, looking at the structure of the agreement, we have asked for a number of pieces of information which are yet to be supplied, and we are waiting for the Finance Committee's report. And our position is that until we are, very clear in our minds that this is welfare enhancing, we will not give it our support. Not because we don't want monies to be raised, and spent for the welfare of the people, but because we want to ensure that nothing untoward is happening in the name of the people. So, for instance, we've asked for the prospectus, and you very know that in any sale of shares and in any transaction of this kind, the prospectus is what contains the final, the details, okay, the nitty-gritties of the agreement for the sale of the shares that any prospective investor, being a rational market actor, will require. And we also, as the representatives of the people, ought to inform ourselves that the terms are not so unconscionable as to conduce to the reduction in public welfare. So we've asked for the prospectus. They've said that the prospectus is still in the works, it's in the form of a draft, and cannot be given to us. Okay, I made the point that as the elected representatives of the people, at least they should trust us to be able to say that, look, we are giving you the draft, or even a term sheet that shows broadly what the terms agreed, to be agreed upon, in the prospectus, are. And yet that has not been given to us, Evans, as we speak. Okay? The second thing is that we have a situation where the Minister of Finance came to Parliament and asked for an amendment of the statutory framework of the Minerals Investment Fund. And we agreed. Parliament as a collective agreed and passed the amendment. Even as we speak, okay, that law has not yet been signed into law by the president. The bill has not yet been signed into law by the president. Constitutionally, the president has the power to assent to the bill. He can also decide that what we have sent to him, he does not agree with Parliament, and has to send it back to us with, written reasons why he disagrees with Parliament. And if Parliament still stands by its word, as enacted in the act that it has passed, Parliament will go ahead and pass it. Now, as a matter of fact, they could not show us at the committee level whether the president has assented to this bill. There is even not a gazette notice to that effect, Evans. So we are now being asked to approve these agreements, the 4 agreements, the transactional documents, as they are called, or in anticipation of the coming into force of the act. So we said, look, why can't we just wait for a few weeks when the act comes into force, and then it turns the statutory framework within which these transactions are being done or executed, for us to be able to say that, look, anybody who enters into them knows that there is a statutory basis of the transaction. Why do we have to approve them today, pending the coming into force of the law? And the minority is pushing us to do something that we think is legally questionable.
From what I hear, what our parliamentary correspondent told us, the House is just has been suspended. The anticipation is that the House will resume, and this will come back to the House. What's the minority position? Are you going to boycott it, or you're going to stay and participate fully?
No, we certainly owe the people of this country, a duty, a responsibility to participate and to make known on the floor and to be on record as having raised the issue, especially, if between now and the resumption of sitting, we do not have the requisite documents that we have requested for, because as a deliberative body, we cannot deliberate in the dark. Okay, that is not something that we should compromise on. We cannot deliberate in the dark. How do you expect that you don't give Parliament the full complement of information needed to engage in deliberation, and still expect that Parliament will deliberate and come out with an outcome?
But isn't all these the compendium of facts that you require? Isn't already before the Finance Committee? Isn't that why they've gone into?
No.
It's gone for a break and they.
No.
I just about someone make the point that this has been discussed quite thoroughly.
I'm not a member of the Finance Committee, but I am a friend to the committee, and usually when legal matters of this kind go before the committee, I'm invited, to partake. And I was at the committee when we asked for all these documents. Our ranking member, specifically asked for them. We raised the issue, but he was the one who then told the chairman, that there will be the need for the Ministry of Finance to supply us with these documents. First, the prospectus, all right. Secondly, the incorporation documents of the offshore company. Why do we need to, incorporate a company offshore, Jersey, in the United Kingdom? That is supposed to be the place of incorporation of the company. Meanwhile, the transactions are governed by Ghana law.
I'm grateful, Dr. Dominic Iyine, as this unfolds in Parliament. Of course, we have an eye on this. As Parliament is being suspended briefly, they'll return, and from the indications that my parliamentary correspondent gives, it looks like the House will have to consider this agreement today and possibly pass it. If you're just joining us, the minority in Parliament is raising red flags of an agreement between government and Japa Royalties Limited, which they say will give the firm $1 billion revenue expected to accrue from the country's mineral resources. Deputy Finance Minister Ben Asare laid the Minerals Royalty Investment Agreement before Parliament last night for approval. The minority spokesperson on finance, Case Letter Forcing, claims government has already paid out 2 million cedis already to a Ghanaian legal firm for the transaction, which he says is out of place. The minority's position is that this has happened based on the proper regulations and nothing had gone wrong. Once this pounds out fully in Parliament, we'll update you. Isn't it amazing when your network cares about you so much that they do amazing things for you? You guessed it. I'm talking about the Vodafone Cash dropping all charges when you send money to all networks. Yes, you heard it right. It costs nothing, absolutely nothing, when you send money via Vodafone Cash to all networks. Just send any amount, as many times as you want, to any network and pay zero charges on the money sent. Go ahead, make payments, show your love, make contributions, send money all you want via Vodafone Cash to all networks for free. Just dial *110# to send cash for free. Ready. Still ahead here on Newsnight. Fishermen across the central region begin 1 week of protest against activities of cycle, the transshipment of fish at sea in Ghana. And then, can an independent president be the solution to the many challenges facing Ghana? 6 individuals believe so as they participated in the Joy News Imani Africa debate.
I have the revolutionary capacity to transform the hopelessness in this country.
And we need to change these establishment parties that have caused all our woes.
Let us scrap the ridiculousness of the NDC and MPP. We have seen what they have done. They are killing us.